He was a ball hawk in 2016, leading the CJFL with 8 interceptions, returning one of them 65 yards for a touchdown. He also led the Kamloops Broncos with 32 tackles and collected 5 knockdowns. Defensive back, Jordan Angove. He's a hard hitter that led the Calgary Colts with 41 tackles this season. He also blocked a kick, recovered a fumble, had 3 knockdowns, and picked off 3 passes. He's the Prairie Conference Defensive Player of the Year, linebacker Colton Burr. He was part of an athletic and talented Calgary Colts secondary that helped shut down opposing offenses during the regular season. He collected 17 tackles, had a knockdown, forced a fumble, recovered a fumble, and had 3 interceptions. Defensive back, Luke Catelier. He was a beast for the Langley Rams in 2016 with an outstanding first step and the ability to go from 0 to 60 in a blink of an eye. He tallied 20 tackles, blocked 2 kicks, knocked down 4 passes, forced a fumble, and led the CJFL with 8 quarterback sacks. Defensive lineman, Shaheem Charles Brown. He was an offensive threat from long range in 2016 for the Langley Rams. Overall, he set a new BC Conference record with 24 made field goals. He also averaged 32 yards of punt and scored 2 singles off kickoffs. Place kicker, Tieran Doherty. He led the Prairie Conference, averaging 36 net yards on a conference-high 63 punts for the Calgary Colts. He showed a booming leg, connecting on a 60-yard punt and tallied 3 singles. Punter, Stephen Fabian. He was instrumental in helping the Regina Thunder to the most dangerous run game in the CJFL, blowing up holes for the Prairie Conference leading rusher, offensive lineman, Logan Furland. He was one of the best in the BC Conference, leading the Okanagan Sun to another BC Championship game. Off the line, his quickness and power helped him collect 4.5 sacks, 25 tackles, and a knockdown in his final season of junior football. Defensive lineman, Jonas Gearing. He led the Regina Thunder in defensive points and tackles in 2016, making 32 stops, assisting on 11 tackles, had a block, 3 knockdowns, and 2 interceptions, including a 42-yard return for a touchdown. Defensive back, Marcus Hall. He's part of a stifling defense in Saskatoon who allowed the fewest amount of points in the conference. He led the Prairies with 5 sacks, which complemented his 18 tackles, 2 block kicks, 2 knockdowns, and a fumble recovery. From the Prairie Conference champion Saskatoon Hilltops, defensive lineman Blake Herman. He is the heart and soul of the Okanagan Sun defense, a hard-hitting 4th-year player who swarms to the football no matter where he is on the field. He collected 30 tackles, 10 assists, 3 sacks, 3 knockdowns, forced a fumble, recovered a fumble, and made 1 interception. He is the BC Conference Defensive Player of the Year, linebacker Lane Hall. He helped the West Shore Rebels to a dominating running attack in the BC Conference this past year. This 6'6", 305-pounder showed his superior blocking skills, along with great agility moving from side to side. From the BC Conference champion Rebels, offensive lineman Christian Kraus. The Calgary Colts could have the best 1-2 punch in the backfield in the entire CJFL. But Minchell and Ramsey don't get their yards if 5th-year Nanaimo native isn't blocking in front of them at 6'4", 275 pounds. Offensive lineman Jordan Cusick. He helped the resurgence of the Edmonton Huskies in 2016 with both his arm and his legs. His 178 completions and 2,241 yards led the Prairie Conference. He also threw 16 touchdowns, completed 59% of his passes, and had an 84% passer efficiency rating. With his legs, he was the Huskies' 2nd leading rusher with 71 carries for 605 yards, averaging over 8 yards a carry with 4 touchdowns. He is the Prairie Conference Offensive Player of the Year, quarterback Brad Lonart. He is one of those players the BC Conference champion West Shore Rebels dared you to stop, and for the most part, no one ever could. He set a new CJFL single-season record, collecting 1,604 yards on 187 carries and scored 15 touchdowns. He also set a new CJFL record for all-purpose yards in a single season with 2,370 on 233 attempts. He is the BC Conference Offensive Player of the Year. Running back, Jamel Lyles. He is the man with two first names, whether you call him Sammy or Mikey. He led a very potent receiving corps in Saskatoon with 35 receptions for 558 yards and led the Prairie Conference with 8 touchdown receptions. His average catch gathered 16 yards, helping the Saskatoon Hilltops to win the Prairie Conference again in 2016. Receiver Sam Ladio Mike. He was part of a Calgary Colts secondary that collected an incredible 20 interceptions. Along with his 3 picks, he recorded 26 tackles, 13 assists, had a block, a knockdown, and a fumble recovery. Defensive back, Dylan Niedermeyer. He played his final season of junior football in 2016 and had an outstanding year. He led the CJFL with 51 receptions and 941 yards. He also scored 4 touchdowns and averaged 18.5 yards a catch. From the Vancouver Island Raiders, receiver Dustin Rodriguez. He led the Prairie Conference champion Saskatoon Hilltops in his 4th season with 42 tackles and 13 assists. He was seemingly all over the field, also collecting a sack and forced a pair of fumbles. Linebacker Cameron Schlitzner. When the Calgary Colts needed a big catch, he answered the bell. He led the Prairie Conference with 39 receptions while gaining 651 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. He averaged 17 yards a catch, always drawing the opposition's best defensive back to try to slow him down. Receiver Dylan Schrott. He won the Prairie Conference rushing title with 120 carries and 1,020 yards along with 8 touchdowns. Every time he touched the ball, he averaged 8.5 yards a carry. From the Regina Thunder, running back Victor St. Pierre Laviolette. He played in his 5th and final year of junior football and helped the Prairie Conference champion Saskatoon Hilltops to yet another PFC title. Not only did he display his outstanding blocking and ability to protect the conference MVP, he showed he could carry the rock as well, scoring a touchdown this past season. Offensive lineman Drake Unger. He's been the anchor on the Okanagan Sun offensive line for the past 4 seasons. He played so well, the BC Lions have taken note and invited him to their rookie camp in back-to-back seasons. Offensive lineman, Mikhail Vecchio. Last season, he was the BC Conference Rookie of the Year and showed no signs of a sophomore jinx in 2016. He helped the VI Raiders to a conference-high 41 takeaways, including 18 interceptions. He picked off 3 of those passes and tallied 28 tackles and a conference-high 23 assists, had a knockdown and a fumble recovery. Defensive back, Cole Vertanen. He's extremely explosive off the line, catching most offensive linemen back on their heels. With the Regina Thunder, he had 16 tackles, 11 assists, 2 sacks, and forced a fumble. Defensive lineman, Ryan Warner. He was the most dangerous weapon for the Valley Huskers this past season, making 44 receptions and gaining 693 yards, averaging 15.8 yards a catch. He hauled in 6 touchdown passes, including a team record 103-yard catch and run. Receiver Mike West.